So today we're on the farm with Stephen McQuade, who was a new entrant to milk in 2022. He's farming just outside Tullamore in County Offaly. In year one, he started with 70 heifers on a single robot and averaged 443 kilos of milk solids sold at the end of his first year in milk. In year two, he pushed up to a second robot and up to over 100 cows. At the end of year two, he had achieved over 500 kilos of solids. We're going to talk through his experiences of milking on a robotic system today, coming from a beef and a sheep background.
So, Stephen, you might just give us a quick background as to why you got into milk, I suppose, in the first place.
Well, we were a suckler sheep farm, suckler cows and sheep, and it was always a notion to change a suckler herd to a dairy herd at some point. We built the suckler herd up to get to a value that we could actually put a nice bit towards the dairy price that was going to cost to change to dairy. And so it started about 5 years ago. We contacted Pat Going, and he'd done a plan for us with the entire farm to change to dairy. And we didn't like that because there was too much money involved in it. And it was a very, very, very big step. So I went ahead and cancelled that plan, went and done a dairy herd management course because I hadn't a clue how to milk cows or have anything to do with them. So that was 2 years with Chagas. And then we contacted Niall McGurran, Lely Centamore and Gar, and we said we'd maybe rather put in one robot, keep the sheep enterprise, and we were bound by contract with Tullamore Show at the time, and we couldn't just kick them the touch, so we had to keep the show for a certain length of time, and the one robot system with the 70 heifers suited us better.
Okay. So what was the initial plan when Pat Going came out first?
The initial plan was to build a greenfield site in the centre of the farm, 50-point rotary,
right, and
reseed the entire place, and just, one loan from the bank, one project, and have it in an entire dairy farm. And I suppose I didn't have the bottle for that, truth be told, so I didn't. And it was a big step. It was too big a step for us and my family, so we decided to not do that. And I hadn't done the dairy herd management course at the time. I just didn't have enough knowledge to make that step. Okay. So I took a step back, done the dairy herd management course with Chagas, and decided to go the slow route. And because the robot gave us the flexibility to keep the sheep and keep the show, whereas anything else I don't think would, because you're tied to a parlour morning and evening. The robot gives you that flexibility. You can come and go, so you have the phones always in your pocket if something goes wrong, and that's the reason we went with it.
So you start with 70 heifers actually calved down in 2022.
Yes.
On one robot.
On one robot.
All milked successfully? The ones that calved?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we ended up milking 70
the whole way through.
The whole way through. Yeah.
You dried off a little bit early, or then
it went very well first year. Look, it's hard at the start. I'm not sugarcoating that at all. Training 70 heifers is not easy, so it's not. But when you get the training period over and done with, it's actually an excellent system. And after the breeding season in May, I kind of said, right, I'm going with the second robot. So I did. So at the back end, we decided to dry off a month early, which was, for heifers, it's not the worst decision in the world anyway, because you're giving them an extra bit of a rest period. And we needed to put in an extra tank, so we did, and we needed to do upgrades on the roadways and the water system. We needed a lot of work to do, and having cows coming and going wasn't going to be ideal. So we dried them off, and we went ahead with that plan, so we did.
So then in 2023, you calved down with 103 cows?
103 cows. We had 103 calved down, and one heifer she didn't come to our milk. She was doing like 7 or 8 litres a day, so we sold her, and we milked 102 for most of the year. Okay. So we did, and it worked well last year. Probably a bit too much free time on the robot, if there's people who believe there's such a thing, because cows tended to stay in a group, and they're coming and going in a group. Whereas if there's more cows in the robot, the group maybe spreads out a bit, because they just don't want to be standing in a queue all the time. So hopefully this year with we're milking 121 this year, that the herd will actually separate a little bit, because they're getting groupy on me.
And plus you'd first So last year you bought 40% heifers.
We had out of the 102, we had 41 heifers.
Yeah, so you still had 60% second calvers and 40% first calvers, which again, because they're not mature cows, they tend to group a little bit as well. So I suppose this year now should be
second lactation cows and heifers. Yeah.
Yeah. So this year now you'll have third calvers. You still have, how many heifers did you calve down this year? 20.
We calved 31 this
31.
year. We made a focus last year on tightening up our calving as well. Now we're not bad with the calving rate, but we pulled the bull early last year to cut out April calving altogether. So we won't have anything to calve in April this year, and that left us with we had to cull a few more cows than we'd like because of that, and which was I still think it was a good decision, because we had enough heifers to build us up to 120 cows this year, and our calving is extremely tight this year, and there won't be any cows calving in April.
Yeah, okay. So first year I think you averaged about 80% in 6 weeks. Last year was about 83, 84. So this year we're probably going to be in around 85-ish.
I think so. We're at 76% at the minute.
With another week
to
go. So yeah, so it'll end up just shy of 90%. So you're aiming for that 90% calf.
We'll always aim. It's very hard to get to. We'll always aim for 90% and make sure we're above 80. Okay,
so let's just go back to the spring of 2022 in particular. So start up spring. You'd 70 heifers and one robot. First time in dairying. What was the first couple of months like in lines of training heifers and getting yourself in on it?
It was daunting now. Where we had the farm management with sport, which I honestly don't, I'm not blowing smoke around, but I don't think I'd be able to have done it without it, because when we had 5 heifers calved, you came out and you walked us through what we need to do with 5 heifers. I hadn't a clue what to do. The calves were still sucking them in the pen. So you came out, 5 heifers calved, we put them in, we dressed them for the robot, as I call it, clipping, singeing, tails, put them into the robot, and you showed us exactly what to do, how to change the socks, everything, and then you went and I was on my own. But once you have them 5 heifers done, sure, you're just repeat. So yeah, so that's the way it was. Calving was fairly tight. They were coming one after another, and it went well. In terms of the machine, it went well. There was, at the start, there was a bit of an alarm coming where the milk jar takes too long to empty. That alarm kept coming up, and JP came out, done a software update. Never had it again. This is the 3rd year. I've never had that alarm again. Critical alarms. The only critical alarm I got was 2 alarms I got ACR cord broken. I know never to let that happen again, because when you're changing the liners, check your ACR cords. If there's a fray on them, just change them. It's better doing it then than 3 o'clock in the morning. And then the other one you'll get is where a heifer, and it'll always be a heifer, will kick the cluster, and the cluster catches up like that, and then there'll be 5 failed milkings in a row after that, because the clusters they're not going up straight. Other than that, I really haven't had any other critical alarms. Like during the summer when everything's trained, breeding season's over, cows are getting heavy in calf, it just flows. It's excellent. You're time enough coming over here on a Sunday morning in July at 9 o'clock to get your wire done, to do the few little bits and pieces that needs to be done, and then, you know, even if you wanted to do the evening wire on a Sunday morning, you can. You just hunt the cows out of the paddock and just change the wire. You don't have to come back.
So you can have the 3 wires done.
You can have the 3 wires done. You really can. You can have your 3 wires. Now, look, it's not. You wouldn't want to be doing that every day. You know, you don't want to be hunting cows out of a paddock. But on a Sunday, if you have an event on or something that you don't want to come back, you can do your 3 wires. You really can, like, you know. Again, not every day. Like, you can't be just hunting cows out of paddocks because you don't want to have to come back. But during the summer months, it's an excellent system to work with. It really is. So
when you were in the springtime of that first year, cows going out grazing, what happened on day one? Did they go out on day one?
They went out. We don't have the cubicle beds to maybe on the shed to keep them in all the time if the weather's not, and we have the dry land, so there's no reason not to go out. So from day one, when we were suckler farming, it was the very same thing. As soon as cows start calving, cows went out. Dairying was no different. We put up the first wire and we started grazing from the get-go, and it has been the same since. Same this year. This has been more challenging now with the weather, but so it has. But we have better roadways in. We've more access points to paddocks, so we can let the cows in one gap for 2 days for 2 breaks, and then change and let them in another gap for 2 breaks. So the poaching is minimal, but it's grazing from day one here.
Okay. And how did you find grazing in your first year?
It was hard, especially when you do your courses and you do your grassland management courses. It's, you know, and you're not getting the graze out that you're told you're supposed to get. Sometimes that's hard, so it is. But that's down to having the right type of grass too. And we didn't have enough reseeded. You had this kind of a sheep ground where grass was a bit more matty, more like a carpet than it was open, and cows just don't like it. You know, any of the reseeded ground we have, the graze right down. You know, they won't leave that paddock until there's not pick left on it, so they won't. And it's the way to go. Reseeding is definitely one of the things. If I was doing it again, I'd have reseeded the whole bloody place before I had anything to do, like, you know. And roadways. Roadways are very important to get the cows to come from the robot to the paddock without any interruption or without anything. You know, the easier you can make that walk, the better cow flow will be. It's as simple as that.
And did you struggle with grass allocations in the first year?
We have a low stocking rate, so we wouldn't have struggled with grass allocation. We struggled with grass allocation during a dry month, like the August 22, if you'll remember. It was very hot, and it was a drought here. We have nearly a drought here every year anyway, so we do. So we always have silage there. You know, you want to have your 75% DMD plus silage ready to go, and we feed it along the wire. We don't feed at the barrier during the summertime. The cows are eating here now. It's winter time at silage in. But in the summertime, we feed along the wire to keep out in the paddock to keep the cow flow. Because if I start feeding in the shed, they won't bloody leave the shed, and you end up then problems there. So we feed in the paddock or the roadways. We fed on the roadways before as well.
Just a round feeder?
No, along the wire, always along the wire. But we have a straw blower silage chopper combined, and it's an excellent machine, and it'll blow a nice clean line of silage under the wire of either a roadway or paddock, mostly the paddock.
Yeah, that just keeps, I suppose, the ABC going.
It keeps your ABC going. Nothing changes in a drought here. It's just they're eating silage in the paddock instead of grass. I even keep the allocations, even though the grass is yellow, and you know there's still something there, and it's extremely high dry matter, so they do graze it. And I'll keep giving them the very same allocation, so I will, along with a bale of silage or a bale and a half or whatever underneath the wire. So and it keeps that cow flow.
So I suppose at the end of 2022 then, with the 70 heifers, what was the solid sold?
We sold 443 kilos of milk solids.
So 443 sold. I think the fat and protein was, look at there now. So fat was 445 and 356 protein.
Yeah.
Cell count 83,000.
Yeah.
Which is obviously very good production.
Again, I wouldn't have known whether it was good or not. I was just keeping the thing moving, keeping it going. I wasn't watching figures. It really was not in the first year. I tend to try not to watch them now, but I think if you keep the cows in good order and keep everything right, the figures will come. You know, if you do what you're told, you do what farm management tells you to do. And in fairness,
and if you listen, Stephen,
you've never put me on the wrong track. You really haven't. So like, questions are always answered. The phone is always answered. So it is. I even rang on call a couple of nights during the first year at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now they didn't answer at first, but they'll ring back. So don't keep ringing, okay? You know, it'll ring and it'll go to voicemail, and then you just stand at the robot and wait. The person will get up, whatever they do, wake themselves up a bit, and then they'll ring you back. So they will. It doesn't matter what time of the day or night it is. The phone will be answered, or you'll get a call back, one or the other. It's excellent service. I was ringing Jordan weekly. It was, maybe even sometimes daily.
Probably was at the very start, and then, well, I suppose anytime there was a change, so like even it came to April, because then maybe silage would have been pulled fully, and then ABC, like you were always ABC, to be fair. So even right now you're ABC.
Even right now we're ABC, yeah.
And then I suppose on average I probably would have called out 10 to 12 times probably. Well, majority would have been grass walks. Like.
Oh, you definitely did at least.
Yeah.
You know, because you were in the area anyway. There was an awful lot of startups in this area that year. So you were only ever a drive away from here, and you'd always, if I rang you, you'd always say, look, I'm passing, I'll be in there. The call might only take 15 minutes, but I was lucky that you were in the area. I know you can't be in everybody's area all the time, but I was lucky that you were that year now.
a lot of the time we used to just literally scout around the farm.
Scout around the farm, and you'd say, look, you're giving too much to B, or you're not giving enough to A. You know, tighten them up here, give them a bit more there. You know, when we were heading into a drought, you were saying, right, now's the time you need to start feeding silage. Just to be able to get guided like that is it's brilliant, because I wouldn't have had a clue. But I definitely wouldn't have got the kilos of milk solids sold, you know. Things wouldn't have went as well. I probably would have got through it, but it would have been a different story when it comes to figures, you know. Definitely.
And then I suppose at the end of the year then we looked at cell counts as well. And we picked out cows for selective dry cow therapy then as well, based off the robot data. So how much would you have done in year one, selective sealer only?
We done 50%.
Yeah, okay, for 50%.
We done 50%, and I probably done 40% this year. I've had one case of mastitis in a cow that got sealer only. But other than that, there has been no, and we have 75% of the herd calved at the minute, so there isn't mastitis. I've none, so I haven't. I'd high conductivity, you see. I suppose the robot, when you're watching the robot, I watch a heifer when she goes in. It's the cows always seem to be fine, so they do. But you can watch the cows as well. But a heifer goes in, she's going to have a high conductivity, maybe because she's not letting enough milk down, and it's only a small amount of milk. But then I watch as her yield grows. If that high conductivity isn't starting to drop in about 2 or 3 days, I'll go in and I'll examine her and see, and maybe give it another day or two, and if it still isn't dropping, I go in with anti-inflammatories and antibiotics.
Okay.
So I do. I've only had to do. We've 31 heifers this year. We've 25 calved. I've had to do it with 2. But there is no mastitis. It's high conductivity. It's not
actually crud's.
It's subclinical, like. Yeah. And I think that's the best time to get it, because you're 100% certain that you're going to cure it. As soon as I go in with the therapy, it starts to drop. The conductivity starts to drop and our litres start to go up. Yeah. So they do, you know.
Like I suppose in 2022, your cell count for the year was 83,000?
The cell count in 23 was 83,000.
Sorry, in 2022?
22 was 83,000.
So in 2022 it was 83,000.
Yeah.
And last year then, in 2023, it was 74,000.
74,000.
So it is, and at the moment it's 102,000.
102,000
right now.
At calving, and we've had a very tight calving up until now. We've a lull now, but the last 3 weeks has been really hectic calving.
As you went into year 2, you obviously bought in more heifers. So what changed? And I suppose the breeding of the heifers, did you stick with what you had? And I suppose just overall, what were the differences in year 2 then?
We kind of went in with the same focus to keep everything as right as we can, keep the animals in as good of order as we can. And it was the same person that I bought the heifers off in year 1, the maiden heifers. I bought another batch of heifers of him. I bought the entire 41 off him the second year. Crossbred heifers, high EBI crossbred heifers. It's not that I wanted to go crossbred on the first year. It was an extremely difficult year to get heifers. If anyone remember 2021, you could not get heifers. And they were the only ones available to us really at our budget. And we bought them that year. And because they done well and we were happy with the way they went, we went back to the same guy and bought the second batch of heifers off him. We've never used the crossbred straw. We're going to use Dove straws from now on, and we'll probably go to a black and white herd at some point. So we will. So
in year 2 then, second robo went in.
Yeah.
You had 60% second calvers, 40% heifers again. So you still peaked at around 32 litres, if I remember.
I can't really remember. It was definitely over 30.
Yeah.
So it was.
And that ended up being then at the end of the year 2, then what did you sell?
In terms of kilos of milk solids, we sold 506.
506 solids
506
sold.
Milk solids sold.
And I think the fat and protein was, I have it here. So the fat was 448 sold, and the protein was 355. So again.
Yeah, again, we weren't focusing on figures. We were just focusing on keeping animals in fine order. Like, it's when I got into milk, I knew I'd never have a problem keeping animals right. I know how to look after animals. It was more of a grass thing, and the machines keeping all that going as well. Like, you know, but we focus a lot on keeping animals in good order. So we do.
And I suppose last year, what would you have fed then?
Last year we fed 1.03 ton of meal
per cow.
Per cow. That's what we fed.
And along with silage then at the start and end of the year, and then
No, there was silage at the start. There was silage in the middle as well, because if you remember last year, there was a very dry May. We were buffer feeding in May, so we were, and then we have the Tullamore show on our farm as well. So I lose most of my bee block for a few weeks with the Tullamore farm or Tullamore show, and we have to buffer silage for bee then as well during the, when that show is on, for them few weeks before and after.
And then when would you have dried off cows then last year?
Last year we started to dry off the heifers at the end last week in November, and I started to dry off the cows through as with the calving date. We were fully dry by the 12th of December.
Okay. And start calving then again the end of January?
We had our first calf here on about the 26th or 7th of January, and it was actually before time.
So I suppose this spring, as you said already, has been a hard spring. February's been wet. So you started calving very end of January. When did cows go out here?
As soon as there was 5 cows calved straight out to the paddock, I just give them a small strip of ground. So I do close to the shed, and straight off the bat, you could say, grazing. It's been challenging with the wet weather, even here in this very dry farm. But if you have enough access points to your paddocks and you keep the cows moved, don't let them keep a back wire on it. You won't do as much damage as you think you will. So, but again, we're a very dry farm, so we're fortunate enough to be able to do that. So
you went out with one block with 5 cows, and obviously they start calving fairly quickly then. So when did you go ABC?
I like to keep nighttime movement. So I'll always focus on night to try and make sure that cows are moving, and I don't want them getting comfortable at night. Okay. So we probably was in A, and then...
So what time did they go out at?
2 a.m.
2 a.m.
And then we'll C as well. It was kind of nearly A and C nearly. So
two blocks, basically.
2 blocks, nearly off the bat.
So 2 a.m. and then 10 a.m.
Yeah. But a shower of rain will come, cows will come back in the shed. And the other thing I must say now, while we're milking 121 cows this year, we have 76 cubicle beds. So that's not ideal, and I'm going to change that this year. But I don't have a choice in terms of whether they should be in the shed or not. They have to go out because there isn't enough accommodation. So there's not. They have got to go out, weather or no weather. They'll come in and they'll crowd around the place. So they will, like yesterday evening, it was extremely wet. Oh my God, it was very wet. And every single cow was in, all 92 of them. And that's not ideal, but it's where we're at. We don't have the cubicle space for them to let them in. We just don't,
But you're keeping silage in the diet then?
But the silage is at the barrier all the time, so it is. Like, I took it away because grass, there was growth, and grass seemed to be growing, and I was grazing maybe 50 or 60 cows, and I said they were kind of crowding in the shed too much, so I said, you know what, I'm going to just take it out and go on grazing. I did it last year, and production kind of fell off the side of a cliff. You got the phone call, so you did, and you came out and you said, hey, you may put silage back in, and that's farm management support for you. If I didn't have you to ring, then I could have been silly enough to keep on grazing and not giving them silage, and I would have
some credit.
Me kilos of milk solids at the end of the year would be a hell of a lot different. So they would.
Well, at the moment, then you have them on what? I think they're about 5.5, 6 kilos a meal ahead.
Yeah, your feed table, you would have.
Yeah, we looked at that day as well. So I think they're on 5.5 technically right now, doing 28 kilos of milk.
Yeah. That's in heifers. That's including heifers.
That's everything.
That's everything. Yeah. The cows will be. Well, I'm sure the cows are on 30.
Cows are 30 or 31. I think the heifers are still doing about 22 though at the same time. So, and obviously we're only coming into March now, so I would imagine a peak this year they're going to hit in the probably 33, 34.
I'd like them to be in the mid 30s. Again, it's always an aim. I'm not saying we're going to get there, but I'd like to aim for it. It's the same with kilos of milk solids, and you see the target, you aim for it. You're not going to always meet it, but at least you're on a road towards it. So you'll get somewhere in and around where you want to be.
So I suppose, just going back to like maybe day to day right now, how much, I know obviously you're calving and you have a lot of cows calved right now, but how much time are you spending here between calving, putting cows on robot, training them, grass allocations, all that?
At this time of year, we'd be here a lot of the time because you have calves to feed as well. So you do, and calves to look after. You have a lot of fresh cows to look after. It's a tight calving spread, so there's a lot of fresh cows, a lot of calves, a lot of stock that needs be minded more than you would, say, in the middle of the summer. So I suppose in the morning, we start here at 8 o'clock. I have a student, an excellent student. He's here actually at 10 to 8 every morning, fair play to him. And we go for tea at 10. And then most of the work is done at that stage. Like,
Okay.
you know, I have the heifers collected. Again, coming into now, it'll take at the start, like 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have been finished, because you're collecting heifers and you're pushing them through and you're trying to train them. And, you know, it only takes one awkward heifer to take up a lot of your time. So it does. But now we're finished. Everything that dairy-wise is done at 10 o'clock. And we're in the middle of calving. And then we just go and we'll be going down to the sheep today. We were at the sheep yesterday. We were getting calf pens ready to move calves over to a different shed yesterday. Like, so there's always something to be done. But in terms of the robots and everything is done here at 10 o'clock. So it is. In the summer, it's different. Like, in the summer, you'll have it done very quick.
So in the summer, roughly, I know it seems a while away now, but
yeah,
roughly, what time are you coming down here? Like, and what are you doing
if there's
in the
no
morning?
drought and
Yeah.
the grass is growing, and it's literally allocating grass, changing your milk socks, washing down your robot, checking your ACR cords, going into the computer, making sure everything's okay, that there's no major failures or anything happening during the night. You're talking an hour and a half, and you're leaving yourself plenty of time with that. You're not rushing at all.
Okay.
So you're not. And then in the evening, it's one wire. Now, we're a retrofit build, which a lot of new entrants might be. We have more flat concrete than you'd like to scrape, and we keep it as scraped as often as you can. That's where a lot of our time goes, scraping. So if you're doing a build, have slats right up to the front of the robot if you can. Our retrofit has flat concrete for about 6 to 8 feet up to the robot, and it is a nightmare keeping that clean. So it is. But that's a retrofit. You know, the money that would have cost to move the tank over or make that an actual tank, or even pull the robots back towards the tank, it was too much at the time. So yeah, you're wired. So that's enjoyable work. You're going out to the paddock, you're moving a wire in the middle of a lovely green field.
Yeah, so in the morning then you're doing your filters, you're doing a bit in the robot, and then you're just changing 2 wires in the morning.
2 wires in the morning and 1 in the evening.
1 in the evening then. Okay. What time in the evening roughly are you changing it?
About 4 o'clock, I suppose.
Okay.
If there's a few cows in it, which there bloody isn't, there should be with me, but sometimes there, you know, if they literally see the quad coming and they know, they just walk in themselves. You're not collecting them. People might think you're collecting them, but you're not. You're just moving the wire. As soon as they see you come with the quad, they get up and walk into the robot. They're milked and they're on to the next block.
Yeah, so you're not actually going out to a paddock and bringing
No,
in
you're not. I never have. I've never have. Yeah, I have with heifers. Okay, look, heifers are different. Heifers are heifers. But not with cows. Not with cows, no. You're going out to the paddock to move your 2 wires in the morning, so it's not as if you're going out just to bring in cows. If there's cows in them paddocks, they will move themselves. You're not hunting them. They'll see you coming and they'll get up and walk to the roadway and back into the robot every time.
I suppose we've gone through a lot there. So you've gone through like why you got into milk, year 1, year 2, current progress. So I suppose for anyone that's actually might be watching this, what advice would you have to someone that is a new entrant like yourself 3 or 4 years ago?
It's a different climate now when it comes to buying cattle. So you have more choice now and you have more genomically tested cattle. I would definitely be very picky at the minute buying heifers. You buy the heifer you want, do research on the type of heifer you want, buy that heifer. There are any amount of heifers out there at the minute, and a lot of them is genomically tested. So that's when you come in terms of your platform grass, like the difference, and a new entrant that maybe hasn't, a parlour guy will know what I'm talking about. Like, but a new entrant, the difference in your milk constituents of eating silage and eating grass only is just like it's day and night. So you really should focus on grass and roadways too. Your shed cubicles, if it's going to be a grazing, if you're not an indoor system, you're going to be grazing, and you're going to be grazing for a lot of the year. Basic cubicles and a basic mat is all you really need, and focus on your roadways and grass. Reseed the entire farm. It's a lot of money and it's a big thing to have to take on, but it will pay you dividends in year 1. You'll be milking up in high 400s kilos of milk solids if you have the right grass going into them cows. The shed, you know, cubicles are cubicles, you know. They're well thought out of this year. At this stage, you know, you put in your cubicles and make it fairly all right. Have automatic scrapers, or if you have the money, a Lely Discovery or some of them things. Where we've automatic scrapers and work well, so we do. But you know, the shed, if you're going to be grazing 250 days of the year, you don't really need to focus too much on your shed.
Focus outside, basically.
Focus outside. That's where the money is made. You know, and I probably didn't realise that enough at the time when I was doing it. I should have reseeded everything. I should have just reseeded everything. So I should have, and I didn't. But we're getting there now, slowly but surely.
So I'm delighted to be joined now by Liam Cahill from the Member Relations team at Lakeland Dairies. So good to have you here, Liam.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
You get involved heavily with new entrants, so you might just talk us through the procedure. If someone's interested going into milk, how did they go about it?
I suppose there's probably 5 stages, Niall. The first thing, they'll make contact with us, so they'll either talk to someone in Member Relations or go on our website at lakelanddairies.com, and they can either phone us or they can fill out an expression of interest, name and address, or name and telephone number. We'll contact them. So we'll organise a farm visit as soon as we can. We'll fill out an application form with them, and we'll assess to see can the lorry get in and out to bring the milk from the farm. The next stage then, if they're deciding that they're going to advance the project, we'll back them up with on-farm advice, and we have different areas of that. As they get closer, I suppose, to the end of the project, they'll need to get Board B approved, which will assist them. A lot of farmers already are Board B approved from their beef enterprises, and they'll just add dairy onto that. They'll organise a herd search from their vet, and finally the lorry will come and take the milk, and a few pounds might start coming into the farm. So it's not an over-complex, from a farmer's point of view, it's not over-complex, and there is a lot of help and support there.
Do you have other advisors then to help the farmer once you get up and running, do you?
I suppose the first thing is, look, we're quite experienced. At this stage, over the last 9 years, we have over 500 new farmers have joined us, have joined Lakelands. They have successfully made the conversion from different types of farming, and that you were probably coming across a good few of them. There's probably a third of them using robots in this area for the last 4 years. So we have probably 6 main areas of support. I'm in Member Relations, so we manage the relationship between the farmer and the co-op, and I suppose help him along the way and as to what services he provides. I'm also involved in the milk quality team, so we work with new farmers and existing farmers on keeping their milk quality right every day. We also have a joint programme with Teagasc, so we have specific advice for farmers who are existing farmers and new farmers on milk production. We have dedicated advisors who work with the new entrants, because obviously 500 new entrants is a lot of people who need lots of specific and individual type help. We liaise with Animal Health Ireland on rolling out health programmes, somatic cell counts, Iones, IBR, the different diseases. And I suppose finally we give them help and support on their Board Bs, so preparing them for their audits, which occur every year and a half, and also closing out issues that may arise with the Board B audit. So there's lots of help. There's lots of help out there.
What's Lakeland Dairies' appetite like for new entrants going forward?
Yeah, we'll welcome all milk. All milk. We've a number of guys starting again this year. We're open for business. We welcome all milk, and that's why we put such support in behind farmers to help them to be successful. If they're successful producing milk, it's good for us as well as a company.
What would you say would make a good new dairy entrant? What are you looking for when you're doing that initial farm visit?
Their attitude, their understanding of agriculture, their understanding what they're going to get into, because it's a big change from every other type of enterprise, because the fact that they're going to be on the farm more, they need to get so many different things to come in together at the same time. We do projections, like we give them whatever help we can. We want it to be the right decision for these people if they're going to change from something else into dairy farming. We want it to work for them, and we want to make sure that they get out of it what they expect to get out of it.
And so do you guys get involved in the initial business plan?
Absolutely, yeah.
You go through the financials?
Absolutely, yeah.
The majority of guys around here, Liam, would be spring calf and grass-based system. I think 90% of our clients, that's what the route they follow. But there will be maybe people further north to hear an indoor system might be their preference. Have you any preference yourselves for indoor or grass based?
No, look at. I mean, it's
you can cater for both. I'm assuming
we can cater for both, and we have both in our system already. And it depends on what's going to work for the farmer. If a farmer's working on heavier ground, maybe less acres, an indoor system might be the more suitable for him. If he has a wide range of land in dry conditions, outdoor may work, or a combination. It depends, and we can work with all types.
A lot of farmers will comment that when they're doing the business plan with yourselves or with others, that the figures can be very conservative. Do you find that people are normally ahead of budget, or how do people normally fall in the first couple of years as regards performance wise?
Look, at I would say ahead of budget. Are we conservative in the figures? Yes. We don't want to give people an unreal expectation. 2 years ago, milk price was probably at its highest, and last year milk price suffered. And the plans would have been okay based on last year. 2 years ago they were out. But look at, we don't want to give people unreal expectations. There is an income to be made from milking cows. If a guy does his job properly, we don't want to lead a person astray.
Of the people you visit with the initial site visit, what proportion would you not be say encouraging to go forward?
And I come across two things. I come across a guy that'll ring, that'll be very enthusiastic. You'll go out and meet him. Maybe you'll start gathering figures to do a bit of work, and he'll disappear himself. He'll start doing his bit of research and maybe decide it's not for him. I'll have guys who'll appear, look at it, maybe not take the step, could come back in 3, 4 and 5 years time and then make the step. And in all cases where that has happened, they've all said, I actually should have done it the first time. It doesn't get any easier but it's just they weren't ready at the time, and that's fine, because I'd rather that they were ready to go when the time is right. The time is right for them.
What would the typical size of a new entrant be at the moment, Liam?
I suppose this year it'll be between 60 and 130 cows. A couple of years ago, you'd have probably the range from the 60 to maybe 400, maybe something in the region of that. A lot of one-man units, we'll say around 100 cows seems to be the main inquiries at the moment.
And that probably explains that so many guys have gone down the robotic milking route. Oh
yeah. We'd have a lot up here now. In my area, it's third of the new entrants in the last.
Do you know what the figure is overall?
I don't know what is overall, but there's a lot of robots milking cows. It works very well. It works very well for farmers getting in who have no experience with milking cows beforehand, and they seem to fit quite well into existing sheds where a guy might be suckling and have a lie back or whatever. He's able to spend very little on galvanise and put in a robot, fit it into his system. He's up and running. He doesn't have to worry about actually milking the cows. He can concentrate on his breeding and his grassland, and they get up and running without too much disruption to too much building work and whatever. Sometimes you wouldn't even notice from the main road that a guy has converted to dairying because he's fitted into his existing what he has. Look, it works well. The robots seem to work well.
Would you notice any difference in milk quality from the guys who put in the robots, considering that it's all automated and there's no real manual intervention compared to a guy with a traditional powder?
Yeah, I definitely say the somatic cell count is on robot farms is consistently good. Milk quality, there seems to be a good wash system on them. Look, at Nile, problems will happen as well, but it's mainly the human. The human forgets to add detergent into a bulk tank or whatever. The little things that will happen, but I mean, in the main, automation works well on farms, and there is an awful lot more automation now than there would have been when I started.
I'd say so, yeah. What do the new dairy entrants find the most challenging? Do you feel in the first year or two?
The first thing is, we'll say, getting the grass right.
Irrespective of the system, whether robotic
irrespective of the system, getting the grass right, that they have good grass, reseeded ground around the dairy, the milking platform.
Do they generally find it difficult, the grassland management new entrants?
Well, I'd say it's new to them. because grazing cattle or sucklers compared to grazing cows, there's sort of different demands, and you get away with different quality grass. So what would I think? The season. So getting the cows out and getting the grass right would be the first challenge. Getting the cow back in calf, maybe getting their heifers back in calf, breeding decisions. Depending on their system, if it is robots, getting the cows trained in, conventional parlour, getting the labour and kind of getting into the structure of milking twice or three times a day, whatever they're going to do. The autumn time, maybe the drying off.
Do you have a quota of new entrants that you'd like to see coming in every year? I'm assuming there's farmers giving up as well and maybe getting to the end of their careers.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's always changing. You're always happy to see slightly more coming in than leaving, and that has been happening for the last number of years. But yeah, age is going to catch up on guys, and they'll get out. We don't have a set figure, but as I said, we welcome all.
Yeah, so no limits either.
No, we've no limit.
Thanks,
no, all welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, we'll just get ourselves organised here. You can hear me okay, Stephen?
Sorry, yeah, good, yeah.
Yeah, and we've got William and we've Liam Cal from Lakeland Dairies, and Jordan Malloy is there somewhere in the background. Stephen, thanks very much for sharing your journey with us.
No problem.
It's been an eventful few years. There's been a number of questions around what would you do different if you were to do it again. I know you mentioned in the piece about you'd reseed the whole place. Is there anything else you would do if you were to start again?
Yeah, I would have liked to have more tanks closer to the robot, or the robots closer to the tanks, just to cut back on the scraping. It's amazing the amount of time you'll spend scraping, and you really have to do it to keep the place clean. So you do, especially in the collecting area around the robots. So that's one thing I would have liked to do. Like, there was one part Simon, we were our project design man. He told me, he said, you need to connect these two tanks here. And I said, yeah, I said to him, but I never did it because it was going to cost too much. And he says, you'll be sick scraping that. And by God, was he right? So he was dead right. And I regret, that's one thing I regret is maybe trying to get the robots closer to the tank. And that section that Simon told me to do, I should have done it.
Very good. Anything else?
No, everything worked well. The cow flow was never a problem with me. So that's nearly everything. Like the reseeding, I suppose, but I've already mentioned that. Like, definitely, I'd have, if I had to do it again, I'd have sprayed the whole bloody place and reseeded everything.
Yeah, no, you made that loud and clear. I might go over to you, William Conlon. There's been a lot of questions around TAMS grants, and obviously the rules have changed in the last while. You might give us a bit of a summary. I know you're heavily involved in yard design, and you'll be discussing with clients what they're going to draw the grant on, whether tanks or robots or depending on the size of the herd. You might give us a bit of a summary.
Yeah, I suppose everyone started with the new allocation on TAMS 3, but there's been an awful lot of issues the last 12 months with the time frame it's taken for people to get approvals. So like in TAMS 2, you would be looking at 3-4 months to get approval after a tranche closed. Now, you're looking at 8-9 months in the first tranche. You're hoping things are getting a little quicker. I know the department are trying to get back to that 3-4 month kind of turnaround from when a tranche closes to when approvals go. I suppose it's worth pointing out now that the next tranche closes on the 12th of April. So if you are looking at doing any sort of work this year, whether it's robot, parlour or calf feed or anything, you'd really need to be engaging with an advisor in the next couple of weeks, because they're going to come under pressure with basic payment applications as well at the same time as TAM's closing date. So just something to be conscious of. Like, if you apply for a grant by the 12th of April, which is the next closing date, you're hopefully getting approval at best case scenario, probably August, September, and that could run into later in the year. So you really do need to be working on that. I suppose briefly, if you're a general applicant, everyone has a 90,000 limit. So if you're a general applicant, you can get 40% of the 90,000, which is 36,000. If you're either a young farmer or a female farmer, they both qualify for 60% grant on 90,000. So they both qualify for 54,000. Now what we're seeing with a lot of people is partnership. So if you are in partnership between robots, grazeways, and heat detection collars, you're looking at a grant of about 71,000 on a reference cost of 133,000. So in total, you can get about 80,000 in a grant if you're in a partnership, but on a robotic system, you can get about 71. Something interesting as well that we've come across the last few weeks. If you got a grant on a robot in TAMS 2, you can't get a grant on a robot in TAMS 3. But if you got a grant on a parlour in TAMS 2, you can get a grant on a robot in TAMS 3. So we've come across a couple of people who've put parlours on their home farm with a grant in TAMS 2. And now they're looking at potentially putting a robot on a second unit with, and they could avail potentially a TAMS 3 grant. So it's just something to be aware of. But the time frame is something that people really need to, I suppose, just be aware of. If you are looking at doing something in the next 12 months, you really need to be trying to get that grant application in by the 12th of April. Also worth noting, you don't have to have planning permission to get a grant on a robotic milking system, whereas some of the kind of infrastructure investments, your sheds, tanks, you do have to have planning permission approved before you can make a grant application. So there's just a couple of things to be conscious of. Other thing, I suppose, is herd size limits. You have to have under 120 cows or under 160 cows in the year before you make an application if you're looking to get a grant. And then slurry storage, you have to have 10% more slurry storage than the legal requirements say. So they're all little things that just, I suppose it's worth engaging with the likes of ourselves or with an advisor, whoever it might be. If you are unsure on the grant side of things, we have a world of experience with it over the last couple of years. So do engage with, try and guide you with it. I won't go into too much more detail because I just don't want to waffle on about TAMS. But if there are any questions, you feel free to get in touch with us, and you can get my number, or we'll pass you on to an advisor who we work with who do a lot of grant applications as well.
Thanks, William. We're not going to, there's been other questions for you around retrofits and yard design. We're not actually going to get into that on this webinar because if you go onto our websites, there's lots of webinars on yard design and retrofits. But if you need some details or to speak to William, you feel free to call the office, and we'll be more than happy to share any experience or knowledge, or if you require a site visit. So we'll just focus maybe more on Stephen McQuade. Were you afraid of the technology, Stephen, at the start? There's some questions around that.
No, the technology is very easy. So it is. The robots, like it's the touch screen there. It's very easy to use. No, it was more the machine and the day-to-day maintenance of it, like keeping liners changed and ACR cords and even changing the sock. Sure, I would have never done any of that. But in terms of technology, it's a touch screen. It's like a tablet. Horizon is very user-friendly as well, so, and sure, farm management support is always there, a phone call away, or Lily on call is a phone call away if you needed help anyway. So it is, and they can log in remotely, and you can be sitting in front of your computer, and they'll be doing it. So they can say, right here, you have to press this, or you have to press this, and you do it. They can actually go bring you through the method remotely while you're sitting there watching them. So no, I wasn't afraid of the technology. I was afraid of the robot. So I was, but I wasn't afraid of the technology, as in, computers and screens and stuff. I was just afraid that things that start going wrong with the robot.
Breaking down. So Horizon is the management software. You found that easy enough. A few people were wondering, are you up many nights with breakdowns and things going wrong?
No, I'm not. At the start, again, with heifers, in early spring, and you're training your heifers, you're going to have a few. Like, I haven't been up at night this year yet. I was at the start, but I was pushing them through at night. When you're training the 70 heifers, I was very much focused on getting the heifers through at night. So I was probably doing a bit of night work there anyway. But the thing that'll happen at night is your ACR cord, and it loves 3 o'clock in the morning for some odd reason or other. It'll break, and if you keep on top of that, you shouldn't have any critical alarms at night.
Just keep on top of your general maintenance and
your general maintenance, and you shouldn't have any critical alarms at night.
Very good. Jordan, a question that came from you, from a chap called Kevin. How many acres do you need to own to be able to milk 70 cows?
Well, obviously, look, Stephen's after hitting nail on the head already. It depends on what's reseeded and what's not. So obviously, if you're an existing dairy farm, at least we know what tonnage you're growing. Well, a lot of the time, we rule of thumb is if you're 70 acres, we kind of cut it back to about 50 acres for main grazing season. That's give or take rule of thumb.
So if you have
so
50 acre grazing platform, you could
50 acres of a grazing platform to be comfortable. Now, we do have farms that are grazing with one robot and less than that, and they might even have to zero graze for some of that. So, but again, they can grow more grass and they're not hit by a drought. So it just depends.
Another question, Jordan, that came in was, how are new entrants doing in general in year one? I suppose Stephen's figures are very impressive. it wouldn't be surprising because he was obviously a good farmer before he decided to go into milk. What's the general run for new entrants? What do you see out there?
From what we've dealt with, I've actually looked over the last couple of years because we've had a good few new entrants every single year. I think a third of our customers for the last few years have been new entrants. So since 2020, I went back as far as then, and the average is in around 410 solids sold in their first year, give or take. So that ranges from 380 up to, I think the highest we've had is 470 or something like that. So, but yeah, in around 410 has been our average new entrant in year one.
Very good. That might bring me to you, Liam Cal. There's a question that's come up, and I do get asked this quite a lot, is that when farmers are looking to become a new dairy entrant, your budgets are always very conservative. And some guys would say, well, it makes it harder for them to get the backing from the bank. But I'm sure you guys are just trying to manage people's expectations.
Yeah, yes, Niall. Well, I suppose, you have to be realistic because the price of meat has fluctuated massively in the last 2 years, and I suppose costs have bounced around an awful lot as well. So you're trying to put a fair reflection on what a man can expect to achieve, or a farmer can expect to achieve from milk, and you don't want to lead him astray. I suppose the banks are always a bit cautious anyway about giving out money, but new entrants that have got in the last number of years, and we have over 500 in the last 9 years, they have all successfully negotiated their way through starting milking, probably borrowing money from the bank, paying back the money to the bank, and maybe going and borrowing more and putting in, maybe increasing the size of their enterprise, buying land, and whatever, but following the plans, which have always been probably on the conservative side, have worked well for farmers. I don't think we've led anybody astray with the plans we've done, and they have stood up. And I suppose they are, and I suppose, an average of where you expect things to be. And Stephen has hit the ball well over the crossbar with what he's achieved. But you will have people who won't do quite as well also. So you have to, I suppose, try and put a figure that will satisfy.
But what another question came from Eamon. What milk price has been used at the moment for someone doing you and your team and Lakeland Dairies do give excellent support, I must say, to new entrants. What milk price would someone be budgeting on for the next 5 years for the business plan?
Yeah, probably look at some place, Niall, over 30, between 35 and 40, I suppose, for the next 5 years. Some place in the middle of the range there for the next 5 years.
Okay. Can you see a point in the future where you mightn't be taking on new entrants? Is there, because there was a point there where there was no new entrants being taken on. Could you see that ever happening again?
I suppose realistically, no, I don't see that happening. Yes, we did go through a phase there about 2 years ago where I suppose, were taking measure of where we were at. And there was a worry, and Stephen mentioned it in relation to the demand for heifers there in 2021, where there was a lot of farmers converting to milk, and there was a fear that more processing capacity was going to be needed to cope at the peak part of the year. But that has sort of abated, and things have settled down again. I don't see it being a problem in the future. I think there's pokes of scope for expansion, and there's no problem. We're open for all new milk.
A question that came from Mary: are you worried about the increase in age of dairy farmers?
I suppose, we all have more candles in our birthday cake every year. Am I worried about it? Yes. I suppose our average age is probably slightly younger than I am at the minute, but still it's 55. Yes, it's moving up. I suppose the one thing about the new entrants, and we've taken in over 500 new entrants in the last 9 years, but we have a wide enough spread of age, but there's a lot of younger guys coming in, and dairying is reinventing itself as well, and people can see that there is a career there, and I suppose there's a lot of automation available, and there are opportunities, and there's going to be more opportunities, and there's a good lifestyle there for a person that plans ahead, and I suppose sets targets and likes farming. Worried about the age group, yes, and that, but I'm also heartened by the amount of younger people I see coming out to meetings and also showing interest in getting into milk.
There's been a number of comments around your cell count, Stephen, has been excellent. What do you put that down to? And a lot of people impressed with the amount of selective dry cow we're doing for an inexperienced dairy farmer. What do you put your excellent cell count down to?
It's probably a number of things. Your every cow's been tested on the robot every 3 days, so, or every 3 milkings. So there's that. So you're constantly monitoring it that way. It's a young herd as well, you know. So there's that, and then just keeping on top of the hygiene as well. You know, keeping that flat concrete scraped and things like that. Like, you know, keep cubicle beds clean when they're in there. Keep them limed. Rhino lime seems to be the best that I can advise on anyway. It seems to just be the best bed for lime, you know, for dry cow period.
So free plug for Rhino lime. A lot of people are curious, Stephen, are you grazing at the moment? Because I was looking for Noah's Ark around Mullingar today. We've had so much rain. What's it been like up your way?
Yeah, I got life jackets for the cows and they're still out there. No, we're grazing all the time. We don't have a choice because we don't have the cubicle spaces. So they're offered their ABC and have silage at the barrier. They'll come in when it starts raining, and then they'll trickle out again when it stops. So it will. It's not an ideal situation, but look, we're an extremely dry farm now. It has to be said. We're very fortunate that we can let them out, and we just keep changing the access points to the paddocks, and that stops that mucky gap from getting any worse. So yeah, we're grazing away. So,
and
yeah.
I'm assuming the fact that you don't have the full herd all traveling as a mob is going to help.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. So there's like today, everything didn't go to B today. Like the A came in there and they started the barrier until 6 o'clock for C. You know, so they came in at around 3 or 4 o'clock, or they were trickling in, and they didn't go to B. They stayed in the shed at silage, and then as soon as they heard the gate opening for C, they started trickling out. So B had kind of a certain percentage, A had a certain percentage, and C will have a certain percentage, and the barrier will have a certain percentage. So not all cows will be walking out that gap into that paddock to make a mess.
A question from Peter there wants to know, could he rent a robot? You can't rent a robot, Peter. It's not something you kind of try before you buy. You kind of need to be committed. There's a bit involved in getting the whole thing set up. But look, there are options on hire purchase. There are options on reconditioned machines are proving very popular. It was interesting what William said about you can get a TAMS grant on a robot, even if you got a TAMS grant on a parlour. One of the surprising fastest growing areas of our business is clients putting a robot on an outblock for different reasons. So, but look, if you want any questions or queries on that, you can contact the office or give me a bell. I'll happily answer. A lot of questions around grazing at the moment. We're going to wind up at 9 o'clock. That was the plan. Jordan, I'm going to give the last question to you. Grazing at the moment, you must be getting a lot of phone calls with this inclement weather. Cows out, cows in. Hard for people to get a clear run at it. And what's the general advice?
The general advice is, I'm sure if they can get out, even for a few hours, it's better than not getting them out at all. But it literally is depending on the farm, because like I was on the farm today in Laois. They were out full time. I know Grania and Sinead, other girls in the FMS team, they both have customers out in Galway. They have them out in Athlone. There's farms out in Monaghan. So, but then there could be farms in the southeast that are housed because of wet weather. So it literally depends. A lot of it is infrastructure as well. So like Stephen was saying, different gap bands to go into different paddocks. Roadways, that's kind of catching out a good few people this year in their first year. But yeah, they're picking and choosing their paddocks. A lot of the paddocks now, unfortunately, the dry ones are grazed, the heavy ones are left. Heavy covers out there as well isn't helping things. So look, it's a mess. So it's literally farm dependent, and we're kind of talking to people one-on-one, doing a good few grass walks one-on-one, seeing what we can do, basically. So
I suppose that's the role of the farm management support team to help the clients that work through the challenges. In fairness, I'd say Stephen was always going to do well no matter what he decided to do. But if he's good people working around him and helps him, get the best out of the system and learn from
Stephen
his
told me
mistakes.
on the first time I met him, he said, if you want me to walk cows backwards through that grazeway, I will do that. And I will well believe that by now that he would have done that. Wish I did. Wish I got him to do it. He might have done it.
I'd like to see him try. But look, folks, I'm going to wind it up at that. Thanks very much, Stephen. Really appreciate you opening up the farm, and I think you spoke really well. Your figures are exceptional. Well done to you and your family. You're the dairy industry. You're doing the dairy industry proud. Liam Cal from Lakeland Dairies, a company we've huge regard for, give great support to the customers. I see you've upped the milk price a little bit more this week, so please keep up the good work. It's really appreciated. But thanks for your contribution. And as always, we always find Lakeland Dairies very helpful in the odd occasion if there's ever an issue on farm. They've great people on the ground to help us all get to the bottom of it, which is great. Jordan, thank you very much. William Conlon, thank you very much. So folks, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.